We all want what's best for our kids, but parenting today can feel extremely overwhelming. The amount of information that is on the internet around parenting, the amount of advice that we're receiving and opinions from other people, it can feel like a lot. So it's inevitable that we are going to make mistakes along the way. However, there are some parenting mistakes that we need to avoid because it will impact our relationship with our kids and their self-esteem. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 common parenting mistakes that are the hardest to undo and what we can do to fix them to turn things around. I'm Lisa, a child behavior expert and a parent coach. I have over a decade of experience as a pediatric occupational therapist. In my career, I have worked with hundreds of families who have struggled with the relationships and dynamics within their families. Kids are struggling with challenging behaviors, leading to a lot of stress in households. Parents were pulling their hairs trying to figure out, what can I do to make things better with my child? So that's why I created this channel, to share with you my experiences, what I've learned, all the tips and tools that I've used with my clients. And I'm sharing this with you today to help you recognize where are the blind spots that you might not have been told are some of the challenges that's going on underneath all the behaviors you're seeing. Now, in this video, I want to talk about some very common mistakes that parents are making in their parenting journey that no one's told them about, right? When we had our kids, none of us were given a manual when they came out into this world. We had to just figure out what's the best way to discipline them? What's the best way to interact with them and speak to them, right? All of these things we just had to figure out. And many of us have pulled on our parenting techniques from our own parents. We saw the way that they parented. We either liked the way they parented, didn't like the way they parented, and followed that accordingly. Or some of us, we just didn't know, and we're looking to our friends, our family members who are raising other kids, and we're just kind of going by whatever we're seeing. But we're not really sure if what we're doing is actually supporting our kids or it's actually making things worse for them. Mistakes are inevitable. It's part of being a parent. We cannot be perfect parents from the get-go, and even trying to be a perfect parent is unrealistic. So recognize that when you make a mistake, you recognize that there was something that you did in the past and that you've been doing now, and you're recognizing, because you're learning more, that this isn't actually serving your child. Give yourself some grace. We are all going through this parenting journey, and when we make mistakes, it's easy to be really hard on ourselves and to blame ourselves, to feel guilt and shame for doing things a certain way. But remember that this is a journey. We're all progressing forward and growing together. If you've liked this video so far, please like and subscribe. This really helps out my channel to reach more parents like yourself who needs to hear this information. Now let's get into 5 common parenting mistakes. Number 1 is being reactive to your child. If your child does something that is inappropriate, or they're having a tantrum or a meltdown because they're not having something their way, and we react to them, what this demonstrates is how to respond out of lack of control, right? Our kids are all learning something we called emotional regulation, the ability to manage big emotions like frustration and anger and disappointment and embarrassment. And when we react out of a place because we are feeling upset, we're actually teaching our child what they are supposed to do when they feel upset. And so if you're noticing that your child has tantrums and they're very explosive, like they've got all of their emotions spewing out of them, they might be learning some of that from you or from their other parent. So we have to be very mindful that how we respond to our own emotions is how our children is going to model that for themselves. So if you recognize that there are times where you have been reactive, remember, give yourself some grace. We are all human. We all get upset over things when we get triggered. But if this is something that you are consistently doing, where you're consistently reacting whenever there's something your child does that you don't like, or even in your personal life, if something doesn't go your way and you're reacting and your child's there witnessing it, you need to give yourself a pause. So whenever you start to feel physically, right? We feel tension. If we're upset that something didn't go our way, we feel tension. We feel the heat rising in our body. Before reacting to that, take a deep breath and just pause in that moment. Be mindful and be self-aware that this is going on in your body. Next is practicing co-regulation with your child. Teaching your child how to sit with that feeling of whether it's anger, feeling frustrated or upset, and telling them that, yes, this is a feeling of being really upset over something, and it's okay to feel this way. Why don't we take some deep breaths together? Or why don't we squeeze a stress ball together to release some of that pent up energy, right? So the things that we are trying to teach our kids when it comes to regulation, controlling their emotions, this all applies to ourselves first. We need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. We are taking care of our own deep emotions, being able to regulate that if we want to help our children learn to regulate their emotions. Number 2 is repairing after making a mistake. Remember, as parents, we are inevitably going to make mistakes. We're going to lose our temper at times. We're going to do things that are going to break our child's trust with us. Maybe we promised them one thing and we had to go back on our word. When these things happen, we can't just ignore the fact. We cannot just pretend that it didn't happen, because sometimes when we have young kids, we think that, oh, they're not going to remember this. They are just going to move on like nothing happened. But the truth is, even if your child doesn't remember the details of what you said or what you did, they're going to remember how you made them feel in that moment. And there's always going to be this looming feeling within them that they're not going to be able to put into words or make sense of. So this is why the repair stage is so important when it comes to us making mistakes as parents and addressing it with our child. When we don't address it, it can often lead to long-term damages with our children, right? If we go back on our word, and if we don't recognize like we might be doing this more often than we think, it's actually building in this narrative in your child's head that my parent is not trustworthy, right? They say one thing, but they do the other. And if this is the message that's being ingrained in their head, this is what is the foundation to your relationship. And when they get older, when they get into the years where things get tougher, right? They're going to be preteens, teenagers, and in those years there's going to be more adversity naturally from just being a young person out in the real world, facing more social interactions and having academic pressures on them. There's just going to be more adversity that if the foundation when they were young was not trustworthy, they didn't have a strong connection with you, when they get to those years, things are going to be very tough and they're not going to come back to you when things get tough, right? And that is not what we want from our kids. When our kids are going through tough times, we want them to feel that they can trust us, that they want to come back to us and tell us what's going on. Because what they will do instead is they will run to their peers, they will run to strangers on the internet who are going to be the ones that are influencing them. And we do not want that for our kids, because those people will not have their best interest in mind like how we do as their parents. So when you notice that you did make a mistake, acknowledging it, bringing it out to the open with your child, saying something like, hey, look, I'm really sorry that I raised my voice with you. I was just feeling really upset because I was feeling stressed after a really long day, and it just really upset me when I saw your clothes spewed all over the floor after I just told you to clean up, right? Explaining your emotion and your reactions and your why can really help your child to understand why you responded that way, but also you're acknowledging that you shouldn't have responded in that way. It's going to help them make sense of something that just feels so out of place for them, right? They know that this isn't how we should behave because you've been talking about not reacting and working on controlling your emotions, but yet you still did that. there's going to be big dissonance in their minds. So you need to practice what you're preaching. And when you make those mistakes, be okay to acknowledge them and speak them out and apologize to your child. And when we do this, it actually models accountability for our actions. And it also helps to strengthen trust and your connection with your child. Mistake number 3 is overpraising or focusing only on achievements. So when we're overpraising them for getting that A or for, getting that silver medal, and we don't praise enough of their efforts, our kids start to really rely on external motivation. So they really need those high praises to help them feel good inside. What this does, it actually leads to a fear of failure and this need to always be perfect. So when you're always praising them for the littlest things, saying, good job this, good job that, oh, you're such a good boy, you're such a good girl, what you're telling your child is that if you do these things, that's what makes you good, and that's what wins my love for you. And when we do this so often, and if it's been something consistently given to them since they were little, and it's been years and years of overpraising and only focusing on achievement, that's where they're going to start building this internal system of, I need to be given all of these praises externally from other people. And even if I think it's good enough, it's not worthy enough, right? And that's the opposite of what we want for our kids. At the end of the day, what we want is our kids to have a strong internal sense of self. We want them to be internally motivated because that's what actually gets them to achieve, especially when things get hard, right? If in life, there's always going to be things that are going to be really tricky and hard for our kids, whether it's related to school and their academics. Maybe they're going to try to get into a college program or university. And what happens if they don't get in there? Are they going to fall into a depression because they didn't get that achievement? Well, what we want to teach them is that even though you didn't achieve that thing that you set for yourself, it's also about the efforts that you've put. Like, did you work hard enough to deserve that? What are some things that you can start doing differently that is going to help you achieve the goal that you have? Those are more important lessons than just focusing on that end goal and saying, if you achieve this, then you are a worthy and good person. So what we can do as parents is start shifting the focus from achievement to effort. Instead of saying something like, wow, you're so smart, you can say, that was really good effort you put into that. I can see how hard you tried. This teaches them to focus on those small little progressions that they've been making. And that's what's going to help build their overall confidence in themselves. Number 4 is letting your kids get addicted to screens. Okay, I know this is a very hot topic, screen time use, and everyone has an opinion or two about this. But the research is clear that excessive use of screen time impacts our kids' cognitive development, specifically executive functioning skills. Screen times are an addiction. It offers fast-paced visuals that stimulate the brain. It gives our kids dopamine hits. And so it creates this loop of addiction. Now, when we let our kids have free reign on their screen time use, where we don't set enough boundaries, right? We don't have rules to when it's okay to use screen time, or if your child is having a tantrum and you give in and you just let them continue playing because you don't want them to continue having their tantrum, well, this is just going to add to the addiction that they are getting themselves into. What we need to do instead is create a balanced approach to screen time. Like, I am not someone who is anti-screen time, but I'm also not someone who is saying that kids can have screen time whenever they want, right? There is a middle ground to this. Setting clear screen time use is key in every household. Making sure that you have certain rules, like there's certain times of the day where there's absolutely no screen time, right? During dinner, we're not going to have the iPad sitting on the table so that we can all watch, our different shows. And maybe it's for you guys when your child comes home from school, there's not going to be screen time right away. We're going to have time to decompress, just sit around, have a snack, right? Because if we let our kids just kind of do as they please, they might come straight home, go straight for the iPad because they've been thinking about it all day. They want to play Roblox and Minecraft and want to get to the next level, that they just zoom straight to their iPad, turn it on, and everything that they're doing after school is just surrounded by the iPad. The iPad is the central point of their life. And so we don't want that to be the habit that's being formed, right? We want to make sure that there are other things that they are interested in, whether it's going outside and playing a sport, enrolling them in extracurricular so they have other things to do. These are very important things to implement into your child's life so that we are not encouraging them to only play with their iPad. And number 5 is waiting too long to seek help. Now, our parental instincts is something that we need to talk about more, right? As a parent, when you have been raising your kid for years and you're noticing that something just seems off, or you're noticing because you're comparing maybe to another child of yours or a friend's kid of yours, and you're noticing like there's something going on, maybe my child's not developing at the same pace as another child, or you're just noticing there's something off about their communication, there's something off about their motor skills, and you're bringing it up to professionals, and they might be saying to you, well, seems okay, let's just wait it out. And so you kind of wait it out. Or maybe you've noticed these things, but you're just kind of hoping that your child's going to outgrow it. You have to go back to your instinct. If you feel that your child is struggling, if you notice that there are some delays because you're seeing it, you're comparing it, and you can feel that there's something off, go seek the help that you need, at least to gain some more confirmation. Don't just go to one person and who's saying, let's just wait it out. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Because what I've seen in my practice is that many parents come to me when their children are a bit older. They're more in their elementary, middle school years. And, when I get their history and I ask them, well, did you notice any signs of challenges when your child was in their toddler or primary school years? They said, yeah, I noticed a few things, but I was just kind of hoping that they would grow out of it. But now their child is older and they're really facing really, really difficult challenges. And many parents, they all had that instinct. They all knew that there was something wrong or something off. But when we wait because we think that they'll outgrow it, what it does, it actually sets your child up for more challenges. Because if your child ends up having a diagnosis of autism or ADHD or sensory processing issue or anxiety, these things perpetuate. The challenges become like a snowball effect, right? It may not seem as difficult right away at the beginning, right? You don't really see, because maybe your child was a good masker and they kind of just flew under the radar at school, but at home you notice things and you just never really asked for the help for them. But now that they're in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and the demands of school is getting harder, the demands of life is getting harder, right? There's more social interactions that are involved in your child's day-to-day, and now you're starting to see problems accumulating. Well, early intervention, it's something that is very, very important for our kids who are struggling, because the more we can give them support at the beginning of their life, when we start to see challenges, the better outcomes they have for the future, because they're going to learn the skills that they need that they are currently struggling with. They're also going to feel supported, because when a child grows up not feeling supported, it affects their mental health. It starts to make them question, why is it so hard for me? Why are other kids able to do things that I can't do? And that starts to build over time. And by the time that they're older, it really becomes part of their main narrative in their head. So it is so vital that you get early intervention for your child. If you're looking for that one-on-one guidance because now you're recognizing that you've been waiting, you've noticed these challenges with your child, but you haven't taken action yet, but now you're ready. You're ready to start seeking that help. My one-on-one parent coaching will support you in that. I will be helping you to identify, well, what is going on with your child? Why are they behaving the way they are? What can you be doing differently in your approach that's going to support your child and in their development? These are all the things that we are going to work through in my one-on-one coaching. I'm also going to provide you with that emotional support that I know so many parents need because this is very overwhelming. When you're noticing challenges, whether it's certain signs that might be indicating a particular diagnosis, it can feel very overwhelming and isolating and scary. And I'm here to help you process this and understand, what all of this means. So if you're ready and you're looking for that guidance, feel free to message me directly. You can also comment in the comment section. I'm ready and I will reach out to you personally. Now that we talked about 5 common parenting mistakes, I want to remind you that making mistakes is normal. If you recognize that there are one or more of these mistakes that you have been making, to give yourself grace, to remind yourself that it is okay to make mistakes. You are learning. You're on a journey right now, figuring things out, figuring out what's going to work, what's the best thing for your child. So don't be hard on yourself. And also, it's never too late to make changes, right? We want to recognize that there's always room for growth and change. And if you've been responding to your child a certain way, you can always change that approach with them, right? And your kids are like sponges. If your children start to see a change in you, in the way you approach, they are going to start absorbing that. And if you consistently make better habits for them, they are also going to change for the better. So remember that. I hope you like this video. Remember to please like and subscribe to my channel, and please share this video with someone who you think will find this information valuable for them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.